down and down. So I'm hoping it just gets to 80 degrees by end of November when last night of pub comes around.
You know, I feel like that's got to do something with like climate change or global warming. Yo, what's good, everybody? This is the Gameday podcast, Cast Corners Gameday podcast for the Daily Northwestern. I'm the host, Lawrence Price, the audio editor, alongside Gameday Editor John Riker. We are here. This is only two of us for this episode, but we're going to still get it cracking. You know, we're going to be here every single week. John, we're going to start off. I don't need to give any introductions because we did that last week, but let's talk about last weekend, right? You went to Iowa with Alex and Charlotte. Wish they were here, but they're not. John, can you break down, of course we'll get into the game, but what was it like in Iowa City on Halloween weekend? I feel like that's like the perfect place to be, but even though it's a lot of cornfields, I'm guessing, tell me about it.
Oh, it was a great atmosphere. Walking around the stadium before with all the tailgates in full force, just yellow all around. Just every parking lot filled, which made it kind of hard for us to get into the press to the press parking lot, and those fans got what they signed up for. The Iowa offense scoring on all four of their offensive drives that first half and just absolutely blowing Northwestern out of the water. It's been a really tough season for Iowa for a program of that standard that's coming off a Big Ten championship appearance. This is like the game they've been waiting for, and it definitely made it a fun holiday weekend for them.
And it's crazy you say that because, watching the game, I'm just, by halftime it was 20-0, right? I mean, Northwestern was down 20-0, could not score. Of course, we knew Iowa's defense was going to be really good, but I didn't really think that Iowa would shut out Northwestern, but also Northwestern will give up 20 points in the first half, considering Iowa has not scored more than 14 points in their last three contests. And Spencer Petras, he's not the best quarterback, I would say, very much on the lower side of quarterbacks in the Big Ten. I mean, can you talk about how they were just so, I would say, successful, on the offensive game, and why was Coach Jim O'Neill's defense so horrible? I feel like that's the nice word to say.
Yeah, I think one-on-one breakdowns has been a key theme this season, but Coach Pat Fitzgerald also pointed to not being able to get off the field on third downs, these big plays. And then there was even one field goal that Iowa kicked that was like a super, super long one that they were able to connect on. Fitz said that was a big turning point. Like, it seemed like everything that could go well did go well for them. I think especially, as you said, getting that passing game going was big, just given how Spencer Petras was embarrassed, I think is the right word. I think the previous week he might have been benched. He was in and out last year against Northwestern, and he just had it's really frustrating, I think, for Northwestern fans to go against these units that they think they have a chance against because they're underperforming, and then suddenly they look like Heisman winners. That's what happened on Saturday.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, there's no way in the world Spencer Petras looks this good, right? They just went like four straight drives, right? It was like field goal, touchdown, going into the half for Iowa. And I think there was just one drive I was watching where Northwestern just got pinned deep, and Iowa gets the ball near the middle of the field, and they score in about 1 minute in that second quarter. And then, of course, by halftime, what a way to capitalize or cap off the first half with Brendan Sullivan throwing a pick going into the half, right? I mean,
yes,
it's a tough scene. I mean, so of course, the end of the game, it was 33 to 13. Iowa won, but what do you think were the top reasons behind Northwestern struggling, but also how did they get out to this, or why were they so not successful in this game, even though we thought it was a chance that this could be a game where they turn around? They snapped the 6-game losing streak.
Coach Fitz has talked about his staff, him having the responsibility. After Saturday, he said our best players have to play better. I think that has to be said when it's a 33-13 game, or even the 13. That last touchdown was on the last play of the game. Yeah, that was chump change. Also kind of a garbage time touchdown. So it could have been even worse. The score looked a little bit less lopsided than the game actually was. So I do think, obviously, obviously quarterback play. It was a below average quarterback performance and significant regression from Brendan Sullivan. That always has to go into it, but it didn't really seem like there was any position group that really did well. When you put all of that together, you get a team that's not competitive on the road.
Northwestern had they had less than 50 rushing yards total, and
allowed 7 sacks.
And
that was huge.
Allow 7 sacks, so we know the O-line just was not playing up to their potential. And of course, like you said last week, Josh Preeb is out, but there's guys that need to step up, especially in big games or against a big defense like Iowa. And looking at the defense, it felt like I'm watching. Why aren't we tackling? Why? I mean, those are the basic fundamentals. Coach Fitch has said every press conference, when someone asks him the question, well, we just got to get back to our fundamentals, and that's tackling, right? And I just see guys just falling over, not even making a good attempt to tackle, right? And, I'm just wondering why, it was such a bad overall collective game for Northwestern. I mean, would you say the defense or offense played worse any type of way, or was that it was just a collective? They both agreed that we're gonna play bad. I mean,
that question I think stumps me. I think that seeing that first half performance, I don't think it gets any worse for that from a defensive standpoint, and the offense not being able to get anything going. This could have easily been a shutout. It's hard to pick one. I would just say we knew Iowa's defense was going to be legit.
Right.
I think
number 4 in the country in scoring, defensive scoring team or yards scoring team. So
and in yards, Iowa's offense was 131 out of 131 of the FBS. So I would say this week the defense is that was kind of a reason that of the many, I would point as that as number 1.
I would say this. I feel like when it comes to offense and defense, or starting off with the defense has had highs like Penn State, right, where they forced 5 turnovers, and then they got games where it's Wisconsin and Iowa, and you're just like, what in the world is going on? And Southern Illinois, Miami, Ohio, right? But I feel like the offense has gradually just been bad all season, and you kind of got to manage that. But I feel like Coach Jim O'Neill hasn't done a good job in his 2 years at Northwestern. Even before that, when he was with the Cleveland Browns or playing or coaching on an NFL level, he did not do a really good job. I don't have the stats on me, but I feel like I was reading the stats at some point. I was like, his defenses weren't that good then, still not good now, and even going to Mike Bajakian on the offense, the offense just hasn't looked good since Peyton Ramsey left in 2020, and maybe that was just because you had an established quarterback. But I think we take for granted how good Coach Mike Hankwitz was for the defense, just being in the system for so long, knowing and understanding the ins and outs so well. And when it comes to roster moves, I don't know, John. We know that Peter Skoronski's going. Mm-hmm. We know that most likely Tommy's going because Tommy's low-key been etching his way up into, the draft. And I mean, you got some guys hurt on both sides of the ball right now, but I feel like there could be guys that enter the transfer portal. We saw it with Brandon Joseph, a top guy on the defense, want to go play somewhere else where if you're going to be on a good team, then your play will look even better, rising your draft stock, right? I think we could see that. We could also see some coaches leave. I'm not going to say the names yet who I think are going to be not only on the hot seat, but might be leaving to take their talents elsewhere, or even just the roster wise. But we'll see. I got it jotted down. I got it jotted down. What do you think that we're going to see? I mean, you were talking about before the pod, just like if there would be firings of any sort. Could you talk about that more? I don't remember exactly what you.
Yeah. I think the question, kind of with a lot of Northwestern fans, is whether if it helps to make a change in the coaching staff during the season or just wait. It seems like it's kind of the program's MO to kind of wait till after the season, assess everything. I would definitely say it kind of makes more sense, especially that there's not as much at stake.
Right.
If that's a route that they're thinking of. The question I've kind of been asking myself, covering this team, obviously I'm not a coach. These guys do this for a living, and there's a reason they're the coach and we're the Daily Northwestern. But I think that both these coordinators have been given ample opportunities to show what they are. They've been given ample talent. You've seen guys like Brandon Joseph, Tommy on that defense, Bryce Gallagher,
even Evan Hull,
and then on the offense, Evan Hull, Skoronsky. We know, and with Coach Jake, he also did Coach Ramsey, so that definitely factors into the equation. We know what we have with those guys. Coach Jake, with the offense, has had some moments. With Coach O'Neill, it's just every single time. I mean, there's been a couple games like the Penn State games where things have bounced the right way, so it hasn't looked too bad. But I think that they should be able to assess and not just say, oh, it's a small sample size. Like, we've lost it. Northwestern has lost in pretty much every different way you can lose.
It's going to be very interesting this offseason. Of course, there's a few more games Northwestern has on their slate. They're clearly not making a bowl game. I feel like we
You don't think we're going to get the number one APY?
I will look in this camera.
Win at Ohio State.
I will look at that. I will look in this camera. I will look at yours as well if I could. But they are not making it to a bowl game. They just
said it.
I mean, they got Ohio State this week, which we're going to get into pretty soon. But also, I mean, Minnesota, great running back room. Purdue always has our number. And then Illinois, which has arguably the top defense right now, stats-wise, in the country. So, I mean, that's how I feel. I don't think that they really have a strong chance. But, I mean, on to next week. This week. They got number 2 Ohio State. John, I don't even know the last time Northwestern faced a high-ranked team. I don't know how high Michigan was. They were, number 4 at the time?
Something like that.
Last year, which we did attend. But, number 2 Ohio State.
Visuals exist in my reaction to that.
We're not going to talk about that. That was a tough time. But number 2, Ohio State, 11 a.m. game, family weekend. Now, John, I must ask, why does Northwestern continually make the toughest opponents at home to allow the fans to see them lose at home? We saw it against Wisconsin. We're about to see it against Ohio State. Ohio State is going to have a field day. Oh, Ryan Day. Yep. See what I did there. But, it's going to be I wasn't going to say a great game. I can't say a great game. I don't think it's going to be really a great game. I mean, the spread is 38.5, right? Let me just ask you, talk to me, how good do you think Ohio State is?
I think Ohio State has a claim to be the best team in the country. We saw with Tennessee, that's one I think that they're tied with number 2, and then Georgia's right there. But Ohio State should be in the mix and should definitely be in title contention. That passing attack might legitimately be one of the best that we've seen between Stroud, Smith and Jigba, and Harrison, who really went off last week. This is going to be huge problems for the secondary, which already made Spencer Petras look like a Heisman candidate. We'll see what happens when they actually do face a Heisman candidate and what the outcome will be.
Man, oh man. Now, I'm very excited to see this Ohio State team. Why? I will say I will be marching into the stadium come Saturday to see not Northwestern, Ohio State. Why? Because Ohio State has our next quarterback, NFL quarterback, my Detroit Lions, CJ Stroud coming into town, But, like you said, all the talent, they have so much talent around CJ Stroud, who's, on the Heisman watch list, who was last year as well. He's a projected top 5 pick, projected top quarterback to come out of this draft, or just complete quarterback, right? He has the tools around him as well. Like you said, Marvin Harrison, Emeka, they both have over 700 yards. Receiving yards this season. And then, for a second, I completely forgot Jackson Smith-Njigba was even on the team because he's been out for so long and they've looked so good. Now, so of course he's still injured. Well, he might be coming back this week, but we will see. But they got offensive line talent that could go in the first and second round. They had the Big Ten Player of the Week and JT Tumimoa. I'm pretty sure I said that right, but they got guys that can get it done on the offense and defensive end. And even watching the game, they were putting up stats on the screen and showing how this defense Ohio State has transformed into something so different since last year. I mean, they were in the bottom ranking or in the 100 range for all the defensive spots. Now they're top 5 for every single thing. So, I mean, going into the game and, well, I didn't even ask you this, but what's been, of course, we can't compare the Ohio State and Northwestern program, right? But Northwestern and Ohio State faced off in the Big Ten Championship 2 years ago. Well, not 2 years yet, but almost there, right? And I know you asked Coach Fitz about it during the presser, but since then, both teams have basically just, Ohio State's gone here and Northwestern's gone here. I mean.
Yes, exactly. I was kind of wondering, Northwestern secondary had some success against Justin Fields. You remember that big. I think every Northwestern fan remembers that and really treasures that memory.
Shout out Brandon Joseph,
And
even though he left.
Asking what was so successful about the defense's approach, what can you do to emulate that again? Now it's not Justin Fields, now it's CJ Stroud, another guy who seems destined for the first round. And he just said that Fields had a finger injury. He didn't think that there was anything that other than that. And that's kind of true. Trey Sermon on the ground had a historic day, and that really blew that game wide open.
That's really, I feel like, huge reason he got drafted so high. That was definitely his breakout game. And I mean, Trey Sermon's a big back, but Jesus Christ, he ran all over Northwestern, literally.
Yeah, but it might be the reason why Fields fell out of the Niners all the way down to the Bears.
I know. Of course, this is the Game Day podcast, but I don't know if you saw. I mean, the person that the 49ers took, Trey Lance, yes. Right? The trade Miami made with the 49ers got them Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, and Bradley Chubb. That's crazy.
All because of Northwestern's defense.
I feel like we deserve credit. Of course, we both were not on game day at the time, but we deserve some credit where credit is due. Exactly. But, I mean, keeping it on the Ohio State note, of course, we're just boosting them up because they do deserve the hype. I mean, offensive-wise, they're top 10 in nearly every freaking category there is to man. And if they're in the country top 10, that should give you an indication that they're top 4 through 1 through 4 in the Big Ten, right? And we see that on both the offense and defense. Passing wise, they're the top offense in the Big Ten, and we've seen the secondary. It was funny when talking to AJ Hampton during the presser. He was very confident, and the defense, playing to that standard he talks about of just that high level and wanting to get to the NFL. And I'm thinking, well, you're going up against NFL talent, so you guys got to prove it. But I just loved his energy in the sense that, I honestly think them boys finna get torched on come Saturday, but I love the competitive atmosphere and edge that he gives, and just confidence that no matter who the team is, who we're playing against, top wide receivers in the country, we're going to go out there and ball. So I feel like going into this game, John, I think it's more about not Northwestern trying to beat Ohio State, but competing and allowing your top players to really show out. Like, Peter, you're going up against some of the top players in the country. You're arguably the biggest game of your entire career, I feel like, or just comp-wise. Prove why you are that top 10 pick. Tommy, if you're going to be a top or first through third round pick, you got to show up against guys that are in that first and second round. Would you agree that this is just a great opportunity for the guys to go up against really good competition and get their name out there, honestly?
Yes. Some of these guys, Tommy and Peter were part of that last team that went against Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship. Those were pivotal games, and now them kind of looking to kind of catapult themselves into the NFL conversation. There's going to be plenty of scouts at Ryan Field looking at that. But it's really, I agree with you, it's really about looking competitive. The part of me that thinks it's going to be a blowout thinks that this is going to be more about how much Ohio State keeps putting their foot on the gas pedal until they put in their backups.
Yeah.
I think that there is a significant chance that Northwestern looks good for a little bit before the game kind of unravels. It's going to be interesting. What do you feel like is the best outcome? Do you feel like even if the Cats lose, if they keep it like close for a couple quarters, do you feel like that's solace for a team that's just looking for a win?
I think so. I think if they can cover, which is 38.5, which is sad to say, I think that's
at home.
At home. But the thing is, it's just like against Wisconsin on homecoming, you lose 42-7, and now you're going up against a much better team in Ohio State. Like that just takes away all hope and faith. And I would just say, be competitive. But I'm gonna be honest, John. Like Ohio State starters can beat Northwestern starters, no question about it. But their backups could possibly beat our starters as well.
Very true.
So it's just like Ryan Day, they're gonna keep the gas pedal on, but also it's just gonna how can they manage the run game? I feel like, of course, because we know the pass. Or how can Northwestern handle Ohio State's run game? Because we know the passing game wise is gonna be very hard. Like Cam Mitchell, A.J. Hampton, Garnett Hollis Jr., Jay Lou or Jeremiah Lewis, Rod Hurd, they're going to have a tough time guarding such major talent outside or in the slot, right? Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to the run game, because, if you're up large, you're most likely not going to throw the ball as much, right? So can they really compress this run game or not? That's really what I think, but honestly, John, I'm just really there to have a good time in the press box, have some good food, see some really good talent. But that's kind of what I see. I think it's just more about competing, and keeping the game as reasonable as it can. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that the most interesting matchup is Northwestern against the Ohio State running game. Ohio State hasn't established its running game as much as it probably would. Right. I think Evan Hull enters this game as a leading rusher between the two teams, and Evan Hull has had not as great of a season, I would say, as previously. When you're a team that's significantly favored to be like a lesser team, kind of like Northwestern and Southern Illinois at the beginning of this year, you kind of just want to close down the playbook a little bit and just establish a run and assert your dominance that way. So Ohio State can definitely do it through the year, but I'm going to be interested to see how much they're going to be going to that run and whether Northwestern, the defense against the run that has been pretty weak this year, will be able to put up a fight.
And I think some of the keys, I just wanted to talk to you. Do you have any keys for the game or just key players? Like I think you just named one, Evan Hull. He had about 30-something rushing yards the entire game last game versus Maryland. He hit that 100 mark. So it's just like, it's been an up and down year for him, and it's not truly his fault, I don't think. I really think it's just the offensive line for the majority of it. I mean, he's been able to get it out of the backfield, being able to be a receiver as well and produce that way. So it's definitely getting your biggest playmaker going in the game. And I would say on defense, definitely just Bryce Gallagher in the middle of the defense, or even Tommy, right? Just getting to we know the D-line is banged up, but Bryce has gradually gotten better every step of the way this season. And talking to him earlier today at media availability, he just felt like he even got better as a leader, right? But in these type of games where it's just a huge, high intense situation, you're going to want to lean on your leaders. I feel like both of those two are captains, or all three of them are captains, to man the ship, and when it's foggy, find direction.
Yes. Exactly. I think for Northwestern fans going with their family weekend, I don't know how many will want to actually invite their families to this. They may not know after watching the game that Northwestern actually does have a football team. It could be an interesting experience, and I'm guessing there will be a good bit of red in the stadium as well with the purple. But I think it should be an interesting atmosphere, to say the least. And Northwestern it's a rough road because home game, then two teams in the Big Ten West on the road. Those could be kind of crazy environments. And then Illinois. That would be if
on Thanksgiving, basically Thanksgiving week.
A couple days after. If they lose the hat again for a second straight year, I think that kind of puts whatever the inverse of a cherry on the top is. It would really be a fitting end to the season.
What do you think what's your scoring prediction for this game?
I'm feeling like the last game that I saw where Ohio State and Northwestern played at Ryan Field, it was 52-3. I think that was a worse Ohio State team and a better Northwestern team. This is a Northwestern team with a defense too.
Oh Lord.
But I also am not confident that Ohio State is going to put their foot on the gas pedal from the first minute to the last. Yeah. So I'm going to kind of go in the middle. I'm going to say 48-7. I don't think that Ohio State quite hangs a 50 burger on them, but I do feel like they cover.
Well, John and folks, I think I think Ohio State's going to get that 50 bomb. I think it's going to be 54-10 or same way, 54-7, something like that. I think Northwestern is going to score a touchdown some way, somehow, whether it be garbage time or something that's going to make the fans feel like, oh, they actually scored. I think it's going to be I think Ohio State's going to hang a huge number on them, and it's not going to be a pretty penny. It is definitely not going to be a pretty penny. I think Ohio State will cover. It might be a little difficult with the weather. We'll see here, but I'm just going for the good popcorn in the press box, the good food, and see a good game or some top talent. That's really how I feel.
There you go. There will definitely be top talent there.
Yeah, so, I mean, John, do you have any more comments, would you say, or any thoughts that we didn't really touch on?
I think that the most encouraging development this week is that now it's kind of more in the 60s and 70s, which will warm up Lake Michigan a little bit because my confidence in the Cats is going down and down and down. So I'm hoping it just gets to 80 degrees by end of November when last night a pub comes around.
I feel like that's got to do something with like climate change or global warming. Like that just would not be good for the Chicago area. But I said it on the last pod. I mean, Northwestern, they're looking more like a 1-11 team this season. I think that this game's going to really solidify that. I think that this is going to be the one where it just kind of unravels, right? Going to see a lot of guys for Northwestern get some reps that don't usually get reps after the game gets into those high numbers. Same for Ohio State. But I do think that this is going to be a losing contest for Northwestern. And, hey, if we're wrong, which we won't be wrong, I guess you can clip it.
Wrong. I'm hoping Northwestern beats Ohio State. We'll have a front page of the Daily.
But you know what? Drake and 21 Savage drop on Friday, so it's going to be a good weekend for me any way, shape, or form. All right, that's going to do it for us on the pod. I'm Lawrence Price alongside John Riker. We'll be back next week. Hopefully, we're going to have more people. Alex, Sky, Charlotte, hopefully you'll be with us next time, or at least 1-2 more. But appreciate y'all for joining us for this podcast or this week's pod. And see you next time. Hope you have a great rest of your night. Peace.